In this video, we're going to talk about materials and effects in VRAY for Cinema 4D. And here we can see what we done in the previous video, where we created what is called a Pbr material. And this is also from other previous lessons, where we experimented with the basic parameters, first using colors and gradients and procedural maps, and also simple values. So we then moved into textures because we saw that to create realistic materials, we usually need to place some realistic texture. And we saw also that we can get it from the web, from many websites such as polyheaven.com. And this is a material from there that it's composed by many layers and many textures. Now you can see this is a final render and it's looking better than the previous render because it's just a matter of how much time we spend into rendering the image. Now I'm gonna move here into an exterior and I'm gonna change a little bit the scenario so that we can test other materials here. And here I'm gonna use the bump as we did previously to create a sea or an ocean there in the background placed on a plane, and also you can use the bump if you want to create some terrain bumps in an exterior. So just need to define the correct scale because sometimes the texture could be too small that you don't see it. Now again, this is a previous scene that we used in another video. I will just add some more elements here. I'm gonna show you how also you can create displacement and other effects, opacity. So we will see something that is going to either increase the realism and the quality, but also the heaviness of your render, or on the other way, you can, with some effects, optimize your scene, so make it faster to render and always good looking. So this is just to show you here. I've just changed the material on the house because it wasn't appropriate. I had kind of a metal on that house, and you can still see the noise here around that we will fix later also with the render settings. Now let's concentrate on these materials effects, and we're gonna talk about the difference between bump and displacement because it's a really important difference, and also about opacity. But let's start here with this plane that I've placed into the scene. You can see here I've created a really simple material. It's a reflective material with a noise assigned on the both on the diffuse, but this is just to see the actual scale and to see how it's gonna place on the object. So always use the diffuse channel to check your textures, and then you can clear them out because you don't actually need them. Okay, and then you can copy and paste that exact texture or procedural map, because actually this is a procedural map. You can copy that, you can paste it in another part of your material, in another channel, to see how it's gonna look like. Otherwise you won't see that in the preview. This is why diffuse is good. And also we talked about mapping. Mapping is really important. We talked about tiling and sizing. This is really important because otherwise sometimes your texture or your procedural map will look too big, you won't see them, or they will look too small that again you won't be able to see them. So you always need to check if the scale is correct for what you need to do. So this is another really important part of adjusting and managing your materials and the objects which on which you have applied that material on. So remember that you need to work with textures and materials and mapping. These are the 3 steps. Okay, so I have scaled down the map there, and you can do that as well if you want to create this kind of sea or ocean or whatever plane of water there. And so I will re-render here, and I should start to see some bump, really fine bump there on the sea, because we are pretty distant from the sea, from the shore, so we should just perceive there that small bump, which is gonna look great. You can see here that with just a few elements I've created a scene. This is an excellent way to optimize also your final render. Don't add things that are not needed. So focus on your view, focus on the camera, on what's inside the frame, and forget about the rest. You just need to keep it as with the low polygons number as you can. Don't increase polygon number, don't increase the effects, because you're only gonna slow down your render and it's not gonna make that particular difference. So always think about optimizing your scene the best. Don't add anything that it's not needed. And also trees here, these are actually 3D trees, but we could in some cases place some 2D trees as well, using an opacity map and alpha channel. And again, I will talk about that. And you can place 3D objects, but sometimes you can fake the 3D using 2D stuff. You can search here, for example, in the asset browser in Cinema 4D. You can see you have some 2D trees that you can place in a distance, because if an object is not close to you, to your view, it doesn't matter if it is high quality or low quality, you will not see the difference. So you can use 2D trees if you place them far away from your actual position, the position of your camera. So don't always go for the best quality for any object in the scene. Just evaluate based on the distance, or for example, if an object is really small, you won't need to place a really high detail object, because those are gonna be a lot of polygons that you're gonna add. Also here you can see you have 2D people that you can add. And by the way, you can do this stuff also in Photoshop. So you can do this in post-production. You can add stuff around in post-production without getting the scene too heavy here in Cinema 4D. Now, it depends on your machine actually. If you have a really powerful machine, you can use it. Now, look also how the 2D objects here behave in Cinema 4D. They always follow your camera, they always stay in front, so they are pretty good. The only drawback here is that you will need to create a VRAY material. Otherwise, they won't display properly, probably. So I'm gonna show you how you can create alpha channel and a figure like this in VRAY for Cinema 4D. So if I open up the material editor here, you can see that this is using a color, so it's the diffuse channel in VRAY, and an alpha, which is the opacity in VRAY. So you can see that the alpha channel is something black and white. Black meaning the absence of the picture, and white meaning the presence. And this is also in graphic design. You can find alpha channel in Photoshop. So you need to create a new material here if you want to do the same thing, and you need to assign the picture in the diffuse and the alpha channel